Trying to protect his students' innocence, he told them the Ice Age was really just the Chilly Age, a period of 1,000,000 years when everyone had to wear sweaters, and the Stone Age became the Gravel Age, named after the long driveways of the time.
The Spanish Inquisition was nothing more than an outbreak of questions such as, how far is it from here to Madrid? What do you call the matador's hat? The War of Roses took place in a garden, and the Enola Gay dropped one tiny atom on Japan.
The children would leave his classroom for the playground to torment the weak and the smart, mussing up their hair and breaking their glasses.
While he gathered up his notes and walked home, past flower beds and white picket fences, wondering if they would believe that soldiers in the Boer War told long, rambling stories designed to make the enemy nod off.
Billy Collins was born on March 22, 1941 in New York. He studied in a Catholic high school. He earned his PhD in English from the University of California. He was inspired by issues of some poetry magazines in his house, and he would only publish his works in privately chapbooks or literary journals. He was appointed Poet Laureate of the United States in 2001. The piece we are learning about today, The History Teacher, was published in 1991. Yes, Viraj here.
What is the history teacher about?
The history teacher, on the outside, is about a teacher changing facts on history to keep the children's innocent. It shows how easily young audiences can be influenced with wrong facts, especially when it's done by the education system. And also shows that when we don't focus on education and let misinformation in the classroom, it negatively impacts the students' development as they can't learn from their own mistakes and the mistakes of history. Yes?
What influenced Billy Collins to write The History Teacher?
Billy Collins was influenced to write The History Teacher because of the education crisis in 1990. It was because of the recent occurrences of violence that caused hysteria and pushed schools to fund more security over stressing education, which caused mediocre scores and misinformation being spread in classrooms.
For our TPcast analysis, for our title prediction, we predicted that the piece is about a student writing about their history teacher. We paraphrased the history teacher by saying it's about a history teacher who misinforms his students for their betterment, yet those students start to have behavioral issues. The connotation is negative, and it shows that misinformation leads to society's collapse. The author's attitude is fearful for the kids and disapproving towards the teacher's methods. The shift occurs at the playground when the students start to bully others due to their miseducation. The title revision for our prediction states that the title's referring towards the history teacher who teaches misinformation and shows the damage he's done. The theme is that revisionist history helps no one, as we can no longer learn from the mistakes of our past, and miseducation to students leads to their deprecation. So in stanza 1, lines 1 through 4, we see the history teacher's noble cause of preventing his students from becoming desensitized, and to do so, he'll grossly simplify or even straight up lie about historical events. So here we see an almost comical version of it. He's lying about the prehistoric Ice Age, saying it was just the Chilly Age, and it's not very as destructive as it'll be later, but in later examples, we'll see just how destructive his lies can be. So stanza 2, lines 5 through 6 are very similar to stanza 1, where the Stone Age has become the Gravel Age. However, it shows how the students are missing out on a very big portion of human development by simply jumping forward to the Gravel Age, an age where they already had driveways, instead of going through the Stone Age, an age where humans learned how to make stone tools. It shows that the kids are skipping out on a big portion of human development. So stanza 3, lines 7 to 10 are about the Spanish Inquisition being simplified to a couple of questions, and this is where I believe where the lies become egregious, because the Spanish Inquisition was about combating heresy from the church, and it was about forcing the church's beliefs onto other people, and the students are supposed to learn the lesson that you shouldn't force your beliefs onto other people, and because they never got that lesson, they never learned about the Spanish Inquisition, they never got that lesson. In stanza 4, lines 11 to 12, this is where the lies get at their most harmful. Simplifying, Hiroshima, the Enola Gay dropping an atomic bomb on Japan to just dropping one atom is particularly harmful because it's covering up a complete travesty, and it's ensuring that the kids, as we'll see soon, the kids will not learn from the mistakes of the past. So in stanza 5, lines 13 to 16, we see the destruction the history teacher has done. His students have behavioral issues, they're bullying other students, and this could be because they have not learned from the mistakes of the past, and thus, unlike how the history teacher intended, they're not innocent. They don't know what they're doing wrong. It also could be that they have been taught this ruined version of history, and they're convinced that they're right, so they're bullying up on other people, the smart, who actually know the correct events of history. So in stanza 6, lines 17 through 21, we see that the history teacher is completely ignorant, unaware of what's happening with the students, and he's just thinking about the next slide to tell them. We actually see him walk past white picket fences, which is a symbol. White is a symbol of pureness and innocence, which shows that in his plight to maintain his kids' innocence, he's only maintained his own innocence. It was completely selfish, and he has not helped his kids whatsoever.
Billy Collins alludes to the Ice Age in stanza 1, the Stone Age in stanza 2, the Spanish Inquisition in stanza 3, War of the Roses in Hiroshima in stanza 4, and the Boer War in stanza 6 to express complex ideas into more simplified and understandable ways. He uses these allusions to create a theme that ignorance or lack of self-awareness can shape how people learn.
For archetypes, the teacher can be seen as a mentor archetype as he teaches his students, although he's not a great mentor, obviously, because he spreads information, he lies to them, and he ultimately leads to the deprecation of his students. The next archetype is in stanza 5, or more specifically the lines that say, the children will leave his classroom for the playground to torment the weak and the smart. The archetype being the outcast. Collins' emphasis on torturing the weak and the smart shows that the children who get bullied are likely classified as loners and outcasts. In stanza 6, there's an archetypical image on the line that says, past flower beds and white picket fences, displaying white for purity and a garden for a hope that may be false, showing that his hope and his purity was just for him, not for his students. Billy Collins' purpose for writing The History Teacher was in response to the 1990 education crisis to show what happens to our students when we don't educate them properly. It's also a call to action to start properly educating our students and prioritize education. For the author's style and structure, Billy Collins uses a postmodern poetry as a format for The History Teacher. Postmodern poetry is a type of style that uses more of a free approach, such as having no end rhyme, having looser form, and overall displaying a more straightforward tone about the poem.
The History Teacher by Billy Collins has multiple themes like the dangers of misinformation, the dangers of ignorance, sugarcoating the cruel acts in history results in cruel acts by students, and more. Thematic Connection 1 is 1984 by George Orwell, where the central government alters historical records to maintain its role. Both books show that the people in power control the understanding of those who aren't. Another thematic connection is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, where the government burns books and suppresses the spread of knowledge among the people. Both Fahrenheit 451 and The History Teacher show the distortion of historical facts. The last connection is Animal Farm by George Orwell, with both literatures containing the spread of false information among an ignorant crowd.
To not expose the students to reading's ugliness, he told them The Lord of the Flies was just the Lord of Fly Catching, a group of kids holding a fly catching competition. An Animal Farm became Manor Farm, named after a farmer who lovingly tends after his animals.
Tricks by Ellen Hopkins became Trick or Treat, a story of 5 troubling teenagers going around house to house yelling trick or treat. To Kill a Mockingbird was a hunting guide, and the Hunger Games proposed a solution to world hunger.
His students rushed out of his classroom and mocked reading, burning books for fun, and those who read cowered in fear and started to shun their books.
While he emptied his class library and walked home, past little libraries and second-hand bookstores, thinking that perhaps next he should introduce The Hate You Give as the Love You Want, a guide to raising affectionate children.